I would say the top 3 barriers to battery recycling are, first of all, making sure you comply to the legislation and regulations, depending if you operate in North America, Europe, but also within Europe, you're dealing with a hazardous waste, end-of-life batteries or black mass. That really defines a very specific sets of rules to comply to. End-of-life batteries, full packs, charged, they're not easy to deal with, and there are several safety concerns. Li-Cycle has developed a safe, sustainable and cost-competitive way to recycle these end-of-life batteries. So I would say what advances battery recycling most is also regulation. The European Battery Directive dictates that by 2030, for example, 4% of lithium needs to come from recycled sources. It sets certain targets for localized content, for minimum recovery rates, which really pushes forward recycling by putting a legislation around this. Recycled sources versus primary sources have a much better CO2 footprint, lower emissions, lower water usage, and comes with a host of other benefits like localized supply chains, reducing your geopolitical dependency on certain parts of the world. There are shorter lead times, you have more reliable supply chains. On the short term, the volumes are quite small, but that grows rapidly. By 2030, we expect about, say, 5 to 15% of global lithium supply coming from recycled sources, and that depends on your total gigawatt-hour output, the scrap rate at the gigafactories, the second life application for EVs, the lifetime for EVs. So depending on what these parameters will look like, you'll have probably around 5 to 15% coming from recycling for lithium, going up to 30–40% by 2040. Battery recycling on the long term will take off because it is legislation driven and it comes with the benefits of lower footprint, lower cost. So on the short term, there will be a small amount of recycled lithium available, but in the long term, recycled units will be in very high demand globally. The differences in cost and, let's say, sustainability footprint, recycled versus primary, you have a much lower CO2 footprint for recycled metals. You already have your urban mine localized at a higher metal content compared to primary, which result in about a 74% lower CO2 footprint for recycled compared to primary metals.